Hey folks, we're going to do a little fun with digital photography here today. We've been doing some camera activities in our class, and I thought it would be good to take a look at Adobe Bridge. So when you're in Bridge and you're in the Essentials view here, as we are, if you've got pictures on your camera and your memory card, then you can certainly click on a picture and then be able to edit that picture. I'm going to click on this picture here, and you can see that we're going to look at the metadata first off, and we've been discussing what all these things mean, but you can see in this picture it's used an aperture of 5.6. And if we look down at the camera details, if I go down here to the camera data, we can see the maximum aperture value on this camera is a 5.7, so we're pretty much maxed out there. The shutter speed is 1/60th of a second with an ISO of 400 and automatic white balance. So be sure you know how to read these over here. Also, you can see specifically what kind of camera was used. The flash was fired. Compulsory mode means it was told to fire, so it wasn't on automatic. The white balance was set to automatic, and you can see it was on a Canon Rebel camera. So this gives us the basic information. Now to edit the photo, we can double click the photo and it will open up in Photoshop. And I'm going to show you a couple of things here that are kind of fun to do in Photoshop with an image. So let me get this size down to fit in my box here. So when an image comes in, a JPEG comes in, it's going to be basically a background layer. And in order to do some kind of cool things to it, it's a nice idea to make it, well, not be a background layer, for lack of a better word. Let's do an example. So up here is a menu called Filter. And there's a bunch of different options in here, blurring as one of them, for example. So say I go here to do a surface blur. That gives you a blurry look. And as I increase this, if I've got preview checked, you can see how it affects the underlying picture here. So if I really wanted a blurred effect, I could do so using this specific tool. Now, if I do this, it does it to the whole image, first off, number one, and it's basically glued to the background, for lack of a better word. It does it to the image, and it's a destructive change. What we want to try to do is make things as non-destructive as possible. So I'm going to back up here in my history panel because I don't want to initiate that surface blur. So I'm going to back this up to when I opened it. And this time I'm going to right click and convert this layer to a smart object. Now smart objects have a lot more that they can that you can control. So if I click on this, watch how this icon will change and it won't be a locked background layer anymore. Here we go. All right, this little icon represents that it's a smart object. And now that it's a smart object, when I apply filters, those filters will come in separate from the layer. So if I go to, let's say pixelate, and I'll do mosaic. This is where it turns into pixels, like so. So you can kind of go through and choose your level of pixels, right? And we're going to click OK. But now notice it does it underneath here. Okay. Now this little white thing is a layer mask. Some rules about layer masks. Layer masks mean that whatever you're telling it to do, in this case a smart filter, do it to everything in the white area. So this is white, which is like show, and it's showing the mosaic. And it's showing it to the whole picture because this box is completely white. Now, if I only wanted it to show to a certain part of the picture, I can use a paintbrush, and I can paint in either white or black, depending on what I'm trying to do. So, for instance, I could switch my colors, and these little baby squares will reset you to white, and these will flip-flop it. So the color on top is what you're going to paint with. And so I'm going to take my paintbrush. Now, be careful. You must be clicked on the little box. See how it's got those borders around it? Now, if I click off of it and it's not around it, see now the borders around the picture, then I would technically be painting on the picture. Now, this won't let that happen to you because smart objects you're not allowed to paint on, and if you click, it's going to say, hey, we need to rasterize it. Well, don't do that. That will make it not be a smart object anymore, so that's bad news, okay? So click on the little white box, and then you can paint. Now, if I paint in black, black means hide this smart filter from that layer. So if I were to paint over his face, see that little black dot? It's hiding the mosaic over his face. Now, you can also click on the little back box and press Alt and Backspace. And Alt and Backspace fills in the black box completely with black. Why is that good? Well, because now I can literally just paint in white over the areas that I want to have the mosaic. So let's say that we're not allowed to let this guy be seen. He's a criminal or something. So we want to pixelize his face. So I can go in, and that adds the pixelation to his face. And it's non-destructive. If I change my mind, literally all I have to do is either turn this off or just drag this smart filter to the trash can, and it's gone. Okay, so another experience here that we're going to do with adjustment layers and masks is instead of going up to these buttons to do an adjustment layer, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to click on this little, I call it the moons button. I'm going to click on that and I'm going to make this picture black and white. Okay, so here's my black and white sliders. I can adjust however much I want here of the colors in each color panel here, or each color zone, I guess you'd say. He has a blue shirt on, see, so when I raise the blues change colors, and those are blue words. So anyway, once you get it kind of like you like it, you can just put this back over. Now again, I have a box. So I can click on the box, and then I can paint in black. So I'm going to flip black to the top. And that would say the black areas would ignore or hide the black and white. So if I do that, now I'm painting him, and he is in color. I always suggest that you go through and paint what you want to be in color first, and then zoom in and touch it up. So I can zoom in, switch it to white, and then use a smaller brush. So B for brush, and then my left bracket to make my brush smaller, smaller, smaller. And then I can go in here and paint this out. Nice. So we've got that going on here, and if there was too much color going on, we just go around the edges a little bit, anywhere that it might matter. Oops, went a little too far there. It's no problem. We'll just go right back over the top. All right. And then Control minus here, I'm going to zoom out so we can see, and then you can see on here, so the white area is using the black and white. It's showing the black and white, and the black area is hiding the black and white, and therefore we see him in color. So these are adjustment layers, and you can have multiple adjustment layers. So I could do that, and then I could add something else. If I wanted to change the color of his shirt, for example, I could do a color balance adjustment layer, and then I can wiggle this back and forth until I get the color that I want, only paying attention to the shirt here. It's blue, so, you know, I could do this. You could do other ones too. For instance, let's say instead of color balance, I'll do hue saturation. So I'll drag color balance to trash can, and then I'll add a hue saturation. One's a little easier to work with. All right, so the hue is the color. So here we go through. Say I want him to have a green, but not that much green, so I'm going to pull it back a little. All right, but right now it's doing it to everything, right? So that's not good. So I need to paint that out. And in this case, I think it would be easier for me to hold down Alt Backspace again, so it fills it all in with black. And then I can take that white paintbrush to apply the hue saturation change to make his dress, or his shirt green. And then I can come in here and paint that in. And that's going to turn that into green. So it's sometimes easier to kind of look at it and see what it's going to do before you actually do it. And then fill that in with black so you can make that change. Cool. All right. So there's just kind of an example of how to use adjustment layers, layer masks, and how to take a picture and apply filters to it in a smart way so that it's non-destructive. Have fun!